Good morning, everyone. Jerome Harris here from epiphatic.com, and in today's presentation, I'm going to talk about why God created Satan the devil. Is your mind tainted by the many images of this hideous and grotesque creature, whether it comes out of Hollywood or even within religion, where it paints this being as something grotesque and just ugly, or one that's red with a pointed tail and a pitchfork in his hand? Well, after this presentation, maybe your mind might be transformed to another way of thinking about this creature. Now, why God created Satan the devil? Well, first of all, one must come to understand that Satan the devil is an angel, and angels in their natural state are invisible. Let's take a look at something. Let's take a look at what's written over at 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50. Here the Apostle Paul is speaking. He says, "I declare to you, brothers and sisters, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable." So flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. So in the heavenly realm, that's an invisible and spiritual realm. Spirits are invisible. Again, Satan is an angel. Angels in their natural state are invisible. The name of Satan, given to this very beautiful and powerful angelic being, was given to him because he was a resistor or an opposer of God, who created this angel. It's like he created all the angels. And every angel is created with free moral agency to choose to do good and to do bad. Now, Satan is also called the devil because he slandered God and he spoke falsely about him, his reputation, and he lied on God. So let's take a look at Genesis chapter 3. This takes us back to the Garden of Eden. Now, notice how this serpent defamed, slandered, and lied on God. Now, we know that God laid the command upon the man not to eat the fruit from the knowledge of the tree of good and bad, or good and evil. At the time that command was given, the woman Eve had not come on the scene yet. So that command was given to Adam. It was his responsibility to pass on that command that God gave him to his wife. So we're going to fast forward and we're going to look at a conversation that the woman is having with the serpent. Now, the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden." And she's referring to the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. "And you must not touch it or you will die." Well, that's basically the command that God gave to Adam. The woman Eve knew that command. Now, at verse 4, the serpent tells her something different. So he's basically here at verse 4 calling God a liar. Notice what he says. He says, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So this original serpent in the garden used a serpent. He used a serpent to deceive Eve. In his natural state, this angelic being is not a flesh and blood serpent. He used a serpent to deceive the woman Eve. Today, Satan the devil uses things to deceive the masses. He uses religions. He uses any devices that he can use to speak to us through, but mainly the religions of the world that he has stood up to mislead the masses. Many have yet to see this. Now, this angelic being, Satan the devil, has brothers. All of the angels are called sons of God, and that God created all the angels that would make Satan the devil a brother to all of the other angelic hosts, including the one that God firstly created, his son that the world knows as Christ Jesus. Satan the devil is Christ's brother. He's an evil brother, but he is a brother because he is an angel. And all angels have one father, one creator, and that's God. Satan the devil is one of many sons of God. Let's take a look at Job chapter 1 verse 6 and notice what's written there. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. See there? These angels, these sons of God, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. If we go over to Job chapter 38, verses 4 through 7, notice how that reads. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together, and all angels shouted for joy. So you see here that the angels are referred to as morning stars. So the one called Satan and devil is also a morning star. He is an angel. Do you think that the devil knows the truth? Let's take a look. Let's go up to John chapter 8, verse 44. And here Jesus is speaking. He says, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native tongue. You see, so a lie is a language. So if a lie is a language, then truth is a language. For he is a liar and the father of lies. So what we can glean from this here is that what it says here, he was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth. So the devil knows the truth. He knew the truth, but he chose not to remain in it. And he chose to speak his native tongue, which is the lie. And what many people to this very day have yet to grasp is that this very powerful angelic being was a cherub in the Garden of Eden. Cherubs are angels. They're special angels that have special responsibilities, and they're angels of very high ranking. This angel was placed in the Garden of Eden. I believe he was placed there as a guardian and placed there to watch over the man and the woman and to provide for them and to be like a caretaker within the garden. Now, notice what it says about this angelic being that the world today knows as Satan the devil. If we go over to Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 13 and 15, notice how Ezekiel describes this angelic being. You were in Eden, the garden of God. So this angel was in the Garden of Eden. Now, it's important to note that you will not find the words devil or Satan mentioned in Genesis. It's not there. And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to conclude with that thought. So hang in there. And that ties into why God created Satan the devil. Let's continue. Every precious stone adorned you. This was an extremely beautiful creature. Carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold on the day that you were created. You see, so God created this angel. Look how he's described. What's hideous and grotesque about that? Nothing. Verse 14, you were, check this out, you were anointed as guardian cherub. This angelic creature was one of high status and ranking among all of the angels. And he was an anointed guardian cherub. You get that? An anointed guardian cherub. You were on the holy mount of God. Think about that. This angelic being that the world today knows as Satan the devil, he was on the holy mount or mountain of God. And he walked among fiery stones. Verse 15, he was blameless in your ways, in God's ways. Blameless. From the day you were created. And again, mentions a second time that he was created. Till wickedness was found in you. So, this angelic being that we see portrayed in art, film, literature, and within religious organizations is not a hideous, grotesque entity that one that somehow this world wants us to envision as being, but it's not. Now, how powerful is this angelic being? Let's go over to John chapter 14, verse 30. And here Jesus says, I will not say much more to you, for the prince of this world is coming. He has no hold over me. So Jesus identifies and recognizes Satan the devil as the prince of this world. Go over to Matthew chapter 4, beginning at verses 8 and 10. Many of you know this as being the temptation of Christ, but this just shows how powerful he is. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all of the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. The devil says to Jesus, all this I will give you if you bow down and worship me. So here we have the devil, Satan the devil, offering Jesus all of the kingdoms of the world and their splendor or glory. So this shows that he has ownership of all of the kingdoms of this world and their glory. And as a side note, did Jesus not say that his kingdom is no part of this world? And Jesus did not check Satan's hand on this. Jesus didn't say to the devil here that you can't give me what is not yours to give. No. So this shows how powerful this angelic creature is. And if we go up to 1 John chapter 5, verse 19, notice what the Apostle John says here. He says, we know that we are children of God and that the whole world is under the control of the evil one. Not some of the world, but the whole world is under the control of the evil one, that is Satan the devil. There are persons within religion, within religious organizations, whether it's Christianity, Islam, or the others, who believe that they are in full control. Not at all. Now, I'm going to speak specifically here of Christianity because I believe that Christianity is a foretold imposter and counterfeit that will come on the scene truthfully teaching, in fact, is on the scene truthfully teaching that Jesus is the Messiah, but would deceive many. I believe that is who she is. And so I'm highly critical of it, and I call it out for all of its heinous mistreatment of the human family and the many false teachings, the many God-dishonoring false teachings that it has produced, and its misleading of the masses of the world. Satan controls all that. He raised that up for that very purpose, to gain control over the world, which is his. Now, I mentioned earlier that Satan uses things to deceive us, like he uses the serpent in the garden to deceive the woman Eve. Today, he uses things to deceive the masses of the world. To also show how powerful and influential this angelic being is, let's go over to Revelation chapter 12. And let's look at verse 7. It reads, Then a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, that's Satan the devil, and his angels fought back. So Satan the devil has angels, and those angels, if one could see them in comparison, are just as beautiful as he is. Evil, but beautiful. So one must get out of their minds that Satan the devil and his angels, I mean, he called them demons, are these grotesque and hideous beings. They're not. They're extremely beautiful, and they burn, pun intended, with intelligence. They're far, far more intelligent and crafty than us lowly humans. But this shows that the devil is powerful in that he has his own angels. In fact, if you read this account, let's see if I can back this up just a little bit. Let's take it down a little bit, rather. That during this battle, and I don't believe that this war has occurred yet, I do not believe that Satan has been cast out of heaven yet. I believe, as it was back in Job's day, he still has full access to the heavenly realm. This war between Michael and his angels and the dragon and his angels is yet future. But it shows here that when this does occur, it shows that here at verse 9, the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called devil and Satan. See, serpent, devil, Satan, who leads the whole world astray. That ties into what John mentioned, the Apostle John mentioned back there at 1 John chapter 5, verse 19, that the whole world lies in the power of the wicked one, or the whole world lies under his control, right? But it shows that he was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. So again, we see here that he has angels. And in this account, we also learn that he had drug a third of the stars out of heaven with him. And if we take a quick glance at here at Revelation chapter 12 and verse 4, we can see that when this war between Michael and his angels and the dragon and his angels begins and the dragon loses, notice how many angels that Satan the devil is able to bring with him. It says here at verse 4, its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky. Remember, I showed earlier that angels are referred to as morning stars. So it's referring to here that its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. So Satan is, in those future days, will be able to bring with him, when he's cast out of heaven, a large contingent of angels with him. That's why we see later on here that when this war broke out at verse 7, how it says that the dragon and his angels fought back. See, the dragon and a third of all of the angels that are in heaven. We're talking, there are myriads upon myriads of these angelic beings in heaven. Satan the devil is able to drag or bring with him a third of them with him. And so this is something that one should really think about. So all these images that the devil is somehow this hideous, grotesque being, no, that is not true. Now, let's answer the question, why did God create Satan the devil? Well, the answer to that question is he didn't. God did not create Satan the devil. God created an angel, a cherub, our guardian cherub, who was well respected and loved by God. He was blameless. So what happened was that this angel, this cherub, this guardian cherub, became Satan and devil. I always use this analogy. When a mother gives birth to a child, that child does not come out of its womb a criminal or a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a teacher. No. That child becomes those things. A child becomes a criminal, They weren't born that way. So likewise, when God created this angel, this very powerful and once loved angel, that angel became disobedient to God, and he chose and made himself and became Satan, the devil. That's why we don't see the words Satan and devil mentioned in Genesis. He was a cherub in the Garden of Eden. And when he slandered God's name, his reputation, and lied on him and deceived the woman, it was at that point he became an opposer and a resistor, a slanderer of God. He became Satan the devil. He made himself Satan and devil. So again, God did not create Satan the devil. He created an angel, a cherub. And plus, here's something else to think about. If we go over to Psalms chapter 5, verse 4, and I'll conclude here. Notice what the psalmist says here. For you are not a God who is pleased with wickedness. With you, evil people are not welcome. So God is not going to create something wicked. He didn't create Adam wicked. And when the woman came from Adam, she wasn't produced wicked. See, both of them became disobedient. They had a choice. Unfortunately, today, we don't have that ability because we're not perfect. We don't know what we're doing. You've got people in the world today who think good is bad and others who think bad is good. You see, the person who became the Apostle Paul, Saul of Tarsus, he thought it was a good thing to go out and hunt down followers of Christ and to do them harm and to have them thrown into jail. But see, in his mind, he thought that was a good thing. Likewise today, each one decides and dictates for themselves what is good, and who's bad, and who aren't. So those are the thoughts of men. So what has to occur in the future is that all of mankind, from past times and those who are living today and those who will be born tomorrow, must all be placed on an even playing field, knowing good and bad from God's standpoint, not what we decide it is. So I'm going to conclude here. I've said that for a second time. God did not create Satan the devil. He made himself Satan and devil. This is R. Jerome Harris. Thank you for listening.